I want to start with a secret shocking revelation about hiring managers. We're rooting for you. Every time I open a Zoom room or walk into an interview, I'm genuinely hoping that you're the answer. I've seen your resume, I've seen your degrees, your educational qualifications, and I'm really excited to be able to finally fill this role that I've been searching for months. In my 4 years in this seat, having interviewed almost 100 candidates for various public health roles, my goal has never changed. I want to find the right candidate for the job, for the mission. But there's a specific recurring moment that happens more often than it should. It's usually at around the 5-minute mark. On paper, you're perfectly qualified, but as you begin to speak, a realization sets in. It's a feeling of misconnection. It's the moment that I realize you've clearly done the academic work, you just haven't realized what the specific room is actually for. In these moments, it's evident there's a gap between your answers and the position's actual function. You might be giving me an excellent textbook definition of a health framework, or reciting a list of past duties with precision, but you aren't reading between the lines. You're standing in the room, but you're a stranger to the context of the role. And here's the part that's so difficult to navigate as a manager. Because I am a professional, and because I want to give every candidate the full space to succeed, we continue. I have 7 or maybe even 8 questions left on my sheet. We go through the motions for the next 45 minutes. I nod, I smile, I take notes, and I try to find hooks to pull the conversation back to the center. But it feels unfair to you, because you're working so hard to impress me, and unfair to the panel who is searching for a specific type of value that we just aren't seeing. It's a courtesy to finish the hour, but inside, I'm feeling the weight of a missed opportunity. I can see your talent, but I can't see your alignment. We often talk about the public health job market crisis, and rightly so. The competition is real, and funding cuts are sweeping. But after nearly 100 interviews, I'm convinced that we're also facing a job interview crisis, or an alignment crisis. You're listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for all things public health and global health, from the Sustainable Development Goals to the social determinants of health, as well as interesting dialogues about the diverse career opportunities that exist in these fields. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so other people like you can benefit from our content. In this episode, I'm pulling back the curtain. I'm sharing my reflections from 4 years on the other side of the desk. We're going to talk about why brilliant candidates stumble at this step, and the research behind how a hiring panel actually processes your words, and how you can start dissecting our questions to show us that you truly belong in the room. Why does that 5-minute window feel so decisive? Why is it that some people win the room before the first question is even finished? Psychologists Embody and Rosenthal call this thin slicing. Their research shows that humans can gauge professional competence and social intelligence with remarkable accuracy from very brief interactions. But in an interview, there's an even more powerful force at play: the interviewer cognitive load. Organizational psychologist Adam Grant often talks about the identification of potential. He argues that we shouldn't just hire for what people have done, but for their ability to solve new problems. But here's the catch. As an interviewer, if you don't show me that you understand my problem, I can't see your potential. Think about cognitive load theory. As a hiring manager, my mental energy is a finite resource. If you speak too fast or assume I already know the context that you've skipped, you're forcing me to translate your experience rather than to score what I'm hearing. A 2023 report on interviewer decision-making suggests that when candidates communicate without context, the interviewer's brain switches from an evaluative mode to a decoding mode. In a structured interview, there's a scoring guide. If I'm busy trying to figure out what you're saying or why it matters to this role, I'm physically unable to record the evidence I need to give you a high mark. You might be the smartest person I've ever interviewed, but if I can't map your brilliance to my scorecard, it's a non-starter. As Richard McMahon of CareerVids famously said, the interviewer is not interested in what you want, they're interested in what you can do for the organization. One of the key predictors of a successful interview isn't just your relevant experience, it's your ability to understand the purpose of the position and communicate that value at a pace that allows the panel to join you. And that's why we're going to look at the anatomy of the scoring process. Whenever I'm preparing for an interview, I try very intentionally to leave my biases at the door. I lean in. I listen harder, especially when I feel like an interview isn't going well, hoping for that one aha moment where the candidate finally gets it. But rarely does that extra attention bridge the gap if the candidate hasn't done the contextual work. The biggest hurdle I see is candidates assuming the panel knows their why. You might mention that you led a project, but skip the context of why it was difficult or how it relates to the role that you're applying for now. This is where you have to distinguish between a duty and a function. A duty is, I write policy briefs. A function, though, is, I translated complex epidemiological data into a 2-page brief that allowed our city council to approve a $500,000 budget increase for harm reduction. When you give me the duty without function, you're asking me to do the manual labor of connecting the dots. And if I'm on my 6th interview for that week, my capacity for manual labor is low. Show me that you know what house you're building. Don't just show me your hammer. Let's talk about the physical reality of the interview room. I have a pen, maybe a keyboard. I have a rubric. My only job in that moment is to record your scorable evidence. If you speak at a frantic pace, skipping the connective tissue of your logic, you're literally moving faster than I can write or I can type. I see this all the time. A candidate gives a brilliant 5-minute answer in 90 seconds. They hit all the right buzzwords, but they don't give the how or the so what. In my notes, that looks like a series of disconnected points. I can't give you points for what I can't capture. Adam Grant points out that complexity is a sign of knowledge, but simplicity is a sign of mastery. By speaking at a measured pace, about 150 words per minute, you aren't just being clear, you're being efficient with my scores. You're recognizing that I'm a human being who needs to document your value to get you to the next round. You're showing situational awareness by giving me the time to actually hire you. So how do we fix this? How do we become a candidate who makes my job easy? Well, you stop becoming a person who answers questions and start being a person who dissects them. You have to realize that every question on my sheet is there for a specific reason, rooted in the needs of the job posting. Let's use a real-world example from my own experience. Imagine if I were to ask you the question, tell me about a time you had to take initiative in a fast-paced environment, managing multiple projects at the same time. A standard candidate thinks that the why is about being busy. They say something like, I'm a hard worker, I had 3 projects last year, I use Excel to stay on track, I made Gantt charts, so on and so forth. That might score you in a range of 2 to 3 out of 5. But the aware candidate has read the job posting. They saw that this is a new program funded by a fresh grant, and they realize that there's currently no established workflow. They realize the why behind my question is my fear that a new hire will wait around for instructions that don't yet exist. The aware candidate responds with something like this. I noticed from the job posting that this program is in its pilot phase and is funded by a large external grant. Having worked in similar environments before, I know how important it is for the person in this role to be comfortable with ambiguity and taking responsibility for creating new processes so that the grant reporting stays on track. For example, when I was at this organization, I did this. You can see where that's going. You dissected the reason for the question, You reference a job posting to show your understanding of the role's function. You then demonstrated how you could add value by taking weight off the shoulders of me and maybe my team. And that's really where the 5 out of 5 for your response comes in. Richard McMahon often emphasizes that you must mirror the requirements of the job in your answers. When you do this, you aren't just giving an answer, you're providing a solution to a problem I haven't even explicitly stated just yet. In this scenario, my pen is flying because you've given me the exact evidence I need to justify a high score. Now, I'm the first to say that everybody has something unique that they can bring to a role. But as a hiring manager, it's my belief that passion without awareness is like a high-performance engine and you don't have a steering wheel to go in the right direction. My goal wasn't to tell you that you're doing it wrong. It was to show you how you could be strategically present. And so here's your homework before your next interview. Go back to the job description. Ignore the qualifications for a second. You already have those in essence. Look at the key responsibilities. For every one of those duties, ask yourself, what is the hidden problem that they're trying to solve here? Is it a lack of stakeholder trust? Is it a lack of expertise in a certain area? Is it high-pressure deadlines that come around too often and they're looking for someone who has a bit of experience in managing projects and meeting them on time? Once you find that functional value, try to build that into every single answer that you provide. Show us that you aren't just looking for a job. You're looking to join the team and solve the puzzle. That's all for now. Gordon, signing out. This show was edited by me, Gordon Thane, with additional editing from LaShawn Benedict. Sound design and mixing by myself and LaShawn Benedict. The original music from The Music Room, composed by Tom Fox, licensed from Johnny Harris. The cover art design for our show by LaShawn Benedict. The Public Health Insight Podcast is produced by PHI Media. Thank you for listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for informative conversations, inspiring community action. If you enjoy our podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. See you in the next one.